What's up guys, I'm back with another video. Today I'm gonna talk about the basis of how fat loss works. So I'm gonna talk about calories, misconceptions, and give you some useful advice, but this is still very much just the basis to get you to understand how fat loss works and to get you on the right track, because 80% of people that diet don't actually know step 0 or the first step. So how fat loss works is it's all gonna depend on your caloric balance. It's gonna depend on the amount of calories you consume and the amount of calories that you expend. So calories in, calories out pretty much. And that's really all there is to it. If you burn 2500 calories a day and you only eat 200, it's gonna be a 500 calorie difference, and that's gonna come from your fat mass. That's pretty much how it works, but I wanna define the amount of calories that come in and the amount of calories that come out. So for the calories in, I mean the amount of calories that you consume or can actually use from the food that you consume. So if you don't, you won't always be able to fully use all the calories that are in the food that you eat. A lot of times you can, but sometimes you can't. And regarding the calories out part, I mean every single calorie that you burn, which consists of just the amount of calories needed to keep yourself warm, the amount of calories from exercise, some other things too, but also the thermic effect of food, because the amount of food you eat is gonna and the type of food is gonna determine or slightly determine how many calories you burn as well. Something else that's included in calories out is gonna be the amount of calories that you burn to build muscle, because if you want a useful definition for your calorie balance, I think you should be looking at the amount of calories going towards fat mass or to maintain your fat mass, and the amount of calories that you take from the fat mass or take from the fat mass. Because if you're looking at muscle as well, it's just gonna get a bit more complicated. There's gonna be it's gonna be misleading. So, for example, if you're in a caloric surplus and you're only gaining muscle, or in a surplus and you're only gaining muscle and no fat, that's gonna be a bit of a useless or misleading information. So I would only look at the amount of calories going towards fat and the amount of calories you take from fat, or maintain, of course. So that's my definition of fat loss. That's really all there is to it. There's a lot of misconceptions though. People do always overcomplicate this topic. Some people think that heat is actually what burns fat. So if you're sitting in the sauna, you're sweating lots, that's what's burning your fat, which it's just not. You don't even burn a lot of calories from being in the sauna, if any, or any extra, I should say. Some other misconceptions are that carbs make you fat, which is also just not true. You should still be eating carbs, or most people at least. Some people even say carbs after 8 p.m. make you fat, which is just ridiculous. That's not true at all. Even if carbs after a certain time are more likely, in some amounts, are more likely to be stored as fat, still wouldn't make sense to even think about. There's better definitions for fat loss. Just because something influences fat loss doesn't mean it's the thing that determines fat loss, which the thing that determines fat loss is going to be calories in versus calories out, of course. Some people also like to say food makes you fat. For example, chocolate makes you fat, pizza makes you fat, which is also not true. Food doesn't really make you fat, at least not directly. So, as I said, calories are what's gonna matter, and if you're eating a certain food in a normal amount, you can still lose fat. There's people that lose fat when only eating McDonald's, which isn't recommended, but that was to prove a point. It's possible to lose fat eating unhealthy things, and dietary fat. Some people even say dietary fat makes you fat, which also just doesn't make sense. you should really just be looking at the amount of calories you consume versus the amount of calories you expend. Something some people also or some people also think that ab training is what makes you burn fat. So doing a lot of crunches, leg kicks, whatever, and usually that's gonna make you feel some sort of a burn in your abs, of course. Or if you've done it, you would know that. But that's not actual fat loss. That's just you feeling your muscles because you're training your muscles. But training your muscles is something completely different from fat loss. Um, so doing all sorts of ab exercises and ab circuits like some people do, even if you're lucky and you're burning 100 calories, that's going to be 100 calories burned at the end of the day. And if you are as a result of that ab circuit, you're actually in 100 calories more of a deficit. That's still only going to be around 10 grams of fat, which is just not a lot of fat. Diet is going to be way more important for controlling the amount of calories you eat, because you can't burn an infinite amount of calories, of course. You should, and it's a lot easier to not eat 500 calories than it is to burn 500 calories. And some people, and my next point, how much of a caloric deficit should you be in? That's going to depend on your goals. Some people like to aggressively cut, which I don't recommend. And with aggressively cutting, I mean around over a 20% caloric deficit. So I think a normal amount or a relatively quick amount of fat loss would be 20% of your total daily calorie intake. So if you're burning 2,500 calories a day, that would be 500. So you would have to eat 2,000 calories a day. It's a bit more complicated than that, but let's say that's true. That's going to be a normal or relatively quick amount of fat loss. It's going to give you some room for cheat days too. That's what I recommend for most people if you're serious about your goals, and if you actually have some tools, some experience, maybe a coach, maybe my videos, to actually know how you should be dieting. Because if you don't know how to diet well, you're not going to be able to stick to any diet. So then a 500 caloric deficit might feel impossible, or might actually be impossible for you. You can go lower, of course, if you're not in a rush. Some people like to take their time with cutting. They like to still enjoy things. But on the other side, some people just want to lose a lot of fat before summer, for example, because they started way too late. But that's just not recommended. You pretty much just always want to divide the amount of calories you have as evenly as possible. For that would make most sense. So some people they bulk in the winter and then they cut in summer, which doesn't make sense at all. You would be better off just dividing that. And the same applies for cutting. If you're aggressively cutting, there's a lot of risks. There's no reason to aggressively cut most of the time. You should have just started sooner. So I would pretty much always stick to 20% of your total daily energy expenditure, which is the amount of calories you burn in a day. That's a good guideline if you're experienced and if you know how to diet. So, and going anywhere over that can give you eating disorders. It's gonna make you quit after like 3 days because you just don't have enough food to feel good anymore. There's all sorts of bad things that can happen from too big of a deficit. So I don't recommend it. You can also lose muscle mass. Performance in your sports and in the gym is gonna suck. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you're at a bodybuilding show, of course. But even in that case, I wouldn't do it. But some people might need to. But that's obviously a different situation. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you learned something. Let me know if you want a video where I talk about more about the specifics of dieting, like how much fat, carbs, protein you should be eating, tips that I have, whatever. And you can also leave a comment if you have any other video ideas or questions, which I might make more videos to. Thanks for watching. Bye.